Welcome to the Emotions Coaching Summit 2024, brought to you by In Good Company, a global coaching training company and founder of the revolutionary Emotions Coaching Practitioner Training. If you're inspired today to continue your journey of emotions coaching, then be sure to check out our website at igcompany.co.uk for full details of that course. For now, we invite you to sit back and enjoy the amazing lineup that we have for you today from our expert speakers who are all leaders in their field. Enjoy!
Hi everybody, thank you for joining us for this session, a really special session that is hosted or being brought to you by Charis Co. Now, Charis and I met on a somatic coaching training that we did together, and she's going to be talking you through today a beginner's map into the body and emotions coaching. So over to you, Charis.
Hi everyone, it's so good to see all of you. And I'm from Singapore. How is everybody doing after the opening session? Yeah, I see some thumbs up. So welcome everyone. I think we still have people coming in, but we will begin in a short while. I would like to, before I do any introduction, I would like that we can do an experiential together. And I invite you to just settle in a comfortable position, maybe make some adjustment to your screens so that you are nice and comfy. And everything that I'm offering is going to be an option. There are parts that maybe you don't want to go with the experience. You can also just sit out. So we're going to go through a little bit of a grounding and co-regulation exercise together before we begin going into the content for the workshop today. So, and I love seeing the faces, so I'm going to put up the boxes so I can see everyone. Cool. Lovely. So if you have a little bit of space around you, I would like that you just maybe sit back a little bit from the screen, so much that you can still see me, but you have a little bit of room in front and behind you. Yeah. So we're going to just go into a little bit of a journey through the senses. I would like you to just softly gaze at something that is in your surrounding. Feel free to just look around the room a little. See what catches your eye. And just really allowing the neck to mobilize as well. And allow the gaze to go wherever it wants to go. Maybe a little bit up, a little bit down. And also explore the intensity of the gaze. You can soften your eyelids a little bit. As you settle down somewhere that is safe to rest your gaze on, that is comfortable for you. And I'm going to get you to also pay attention to your breathing right now. Maybe noticing the temperature of the air entering the nostril and the temperature of the air as it comes out through the nose or the mouth. Just a few of those. You don't have to change anything. You're just really noticing what is here. And if it feels good, see if you can exhale through the mouth. Just allowing the jaw to hang loose just a tiny bit, allowing the breath to fall out of the mouth. If it feels good, you can allow your body to gently sway left and right as well as you sense the sit bones and the contact of your body with the chair beneath you. You can also go forward and back just to see how the body likes that or not. And as you rock back to your center, you're just going to take a few more moments to sense the rise and fall of your chest as you breathe in and out. And just sense how far the breathing wave goes down the body. Maybe it's in the belly. Maybe the movement is more in the chest. Maybe at the side of the ribs. Also noticing the back of the body. The belly area and the rest of the face as well. Just noticing any tension, sensation, thoughts, emotion, anything is welcome. Maybe a yawn wants to come, you're more than welcome to let it be. Yeah. Lastly, invitation to just pick up your hands and see how you're able to maybe sense into which part of the body might be willing to receive touch. And if you're not sure, you can always just explore. Maybe it's the face. You can try it and take a moment to pause and see how it is being received. Maybe the eyes. Just getting into the darkness for a bit with the hands and the warmth covering your face. Yeah, try a few areas and maybe land on somewhere. We're gonna just gently come to a close right there. And you can shake it off and invite light back into your eyes as you slowly blink your eyes open if you have your eyes closed earlier on. Big stretch. Yeah, I see that. And I want to do it too with you. Yeah. Okay. Lovely. All right. Yeah. So hello, everybody. My name is Charis and I'm from Singapore. As Joe has shared with you that we met through a coaching training together. And I think we had a really good conversation about emotions and body sensation, basically anything to do with like body-based tools. So she has kindly invited me to come on board to share a little bit about myself and also the work that I do. So today we are going to dive in a little bit into what it means to listen to the body. That's an advice that I think we all have heard before, and everyone have a different experience of what that means and different experiences of how that has worked for them. Maybe for some people, oh, thank you. Maybe for some people it worked well. Maybe for some people it's overwhelming. I don't know. So we are going to go through some of the signs of how the body system works. Mainly today we'll be talking about the nervous system. And we'll be talking a little bit on physiology as well through the lens of fascia. There won't be too much talking. I hope we have time to do a little bit more experiential later, but let's dive in. So I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see the slides on my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, thank you. All right, so here we are, beginner's map to the body system. So this is my introduction. This is helpful to know. So I'm a Pilates teacher. I'm also a Franklin Method educator. In Franklin Method, we use the mind to improve the movement of the body in that feedback loop. And we also explore how our joints, our organs, we also embody how our joints and organs move in our system, in our bodies. We work a lot with interoception, exteroception, proprioception, so anything to do with embodiment. Yeah, my background is in sports science and psychology. I'm also trained in somatic experiencing and focusing oriented therapy. This is just by way of honoring the work and the people that have informed all that I do today. Unlearning normal to find natural. So a lot of the content that we are going to go through today might be new and might be something that you've heard before. But I believe every time we come together in this co-creation, we might have new insights. So I also look forward to hear from each of you later on. My invitation to you today is to stay curious and open, be patient and gentle with yourself, and invite lightness and have fun. Okay, we already done that. So we're going to go into part one right now, the nervous system science. Have any one of you heard of the polyvagal theory? Show of hand. Yeah, cool. Okay, so we'll be talking about that for a bit. For those of you who are not so familiar with it, so this is kind of the landmark of what we are talking about. So we have the brain and the spinal cord. So the central nervous system is the part in pink, and the peripheral nervous system is the ones in yellow. Today, we are mainly focusing on the autonomic nervous system. So it's a division of the PNS. It controls involuntary bodily functions, heart rate, digestion, respiratory rates, and blood pressure. So these are things that basically is not in our executive function. Like how when we need to go to the bathroom, we know it by sensing the body. So the role of the ANS, primarily to make it simple, is really like a protective system for our vessel. So it protects us by sensing safety and risk. It is actively listening out for cues of safety and danger around us. And Stephen Porges coined this term called neuroception, and that happens below awareness without our conscious control. So what all of that mean, we will explore a little bit more in the following content. So neuroception is the unconscious process by which the ANS detects cues of safety and danger. It operates below level of conscious awareness and without the involvement of the thinking brain. So this would be, if you just imagine meeting someone for the first time, maybe when we first got on the Zoom call with one another, versus after we have moved together and you've listened to my voice for like about 4 minutes, going through the breathing and the body scanning. How did you feel when you first come into the Zoom call, and how did you feel after? So I definitely felt calmer because I was really nervous about about the workshop. So it was more for me than you maybe. Yeah. So we're gonna go into polyvagal theory. I think this is where it will get a little bit more interesting. So as I mentioned, it's developed by Stephen Porges, and it has to do with social engagement, emotional experiences, and also physiological states. And you will see that in the diagram after this. So for those of you who have heard of polyvagal theory, have you seen this chart before? Yes, no, maybe? Yeah? No, okay, some of you know. So mainly there are 3 states: dorsal vagal, sympathetic, and ventral vagal. And if you look at the chart over here, you might see some of the words that are familiar emotions like rage, anger, anxiety, and everything in this red portion. And then you see social engagement below. You see joy in the present, groundedness, etc. So when there are 3 stages that are categorized by Stephen Porges. So at the top here in freeze, it's called the dorsal vagal tone, and then we have sympathetic in the red zone and ventral vagal at the bottom. So if I were to go to the next slide, this is something that our team has put together to make it a little bit more accessible. So at the top, we have the ventral vagal state. In the middle, we have sympathetic, and at the bottom, we have dorsal. So following this ladder, when we are at the bottom, it might be when we feel overwhelmed. So that will be at the top of the curve on the previous slide. And then in sympathetic nervous system is when maybe we are triggered, or maybe our body is mobilized into action, into running away, for example, when there's a present threat. And then at the top, we have ventral vagal. This is about social engagement. So if you just look at the image for a while and see, just sense into what might come up to you. Are you able to relate to different situations in your life where you have felt your own state in one of the various levels? You can type in the chat if you can think of anything. Or if there's any curious questions as well, I'm happy to be sharing some stories or examples. So we might have heard of the fight, flight, freeze model, as some people speak about it. For fight and flight, they would be under the sympathetic nervous system. For freeze, it will be parasympathetic, even though it says relaxing right here. So it's not binary. When we are in overwhelm, we can also be in parasympathetic, where the breath rate is really low. Maybe there is tension in the body, and some part of the body might find it difficult to move. So I'm going to pause here on the theory part and maybe share with you some stories about the clients that I've seen over the years and how I landed up doing this work. At the beginning, I started as a graduate from a diploma in sports science. So I actually began as a trainer first, working with lots of people through one-on-one sessions. It started as just trying to help people gain more physical freedom and get stronger, maybe losing weight. But as I continue my work, I start to encounter more and more people with pain. So that started my fascination with pain science, which introduced me to the nervous system science as well. So what I noticed in a lot of people around me with very busy lifestyles is that very often they feel very overwhelmed and they find it very hard to find energy to do a lot of things. So we can look at this whole nervous system science through the lens of high energy or low energy as well. So you can think of parasympathetic nervous system as a state of having lower energy, and that's not good or bad, it just is. And you can also look at it as mobilizing into more energy. And when you look at the wavy lines there, a healthy nervous system means that it is able to ride the wave. It means that you are able to run after a bus when you need to, and you can calm down once you get a seat and you can rest immediately. It also means that if you have children, you are able to find energy to run after the kite with your child. But at the same time, you are also able to be calm as you converse through difficult situations.
Charis, there's a couple of questions in the chat. Roycen's asking, I understand that a lot of yoga aims to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Can you expand?
Can you repeat the question again? A lot of yoga aims to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Can you expand on this? Or if you don't mind, Roisin, is it Roisin? Are you able to maybe speak about it a little bit more?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. It's Roisin. Don't worry, it's a difficult name. Yeah, no, just that really. I've done a lot of yoga, and I've sometimes been told when you get into certain positions that this is all about activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And the way I've kind of interpreted that was that this was a positive thing, and that's probably what we kind of need to be doing. But I've never really understood it fully. So yeah, I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on what that might mean. And I guess I'm looking at your image and kind of wondering where the parasympathetic is on this image with relation to that. And it may be that I've just misinterpreted what I've been told.
About the parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think for example, in yin yoga, I think the goal is to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's assuming that people are not able to relax. Yeah, and then that pause generally brings the body, the heart rate down with deep breathing as well. So in a fast-paced lifestyle where everything is about doing and about going and going, something like this would be really, really so supportive for the system, for the body, for recovery. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. So on your image, where is the parasympathetic?
In this image?
On your image on
okay,
the slide? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say can you see my cursor?
I can.
Yeah. So of course the images are kind of like segmented into quadrants so that it's easier to understand it simplistically. I would say that in parasympathetic nervous system, it would be somewhere in the ventral vagal if you are experiencing it as a positive experience. And you get to see like your classmates in class, you feel safe being held in a group space, you feel safe being held by your instructor. That is more in the ventral vagal state. When we talk about the basement down here, this is kind of different. This is kind of when you can be stuck on and off on the previous chart, where you are actually really overwhelmed and the system decides that that's too much. So then you might start to have brain fog or it's hard to focus and you can't think of anything. So that's a different state. And also, usually this state is also linked to the need to isolate, which sometimes just continues to perpetuate the dorsal vagal state. Is that a little bit clearer for you?
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so with this, right, I think one of the main thing that I want to highlight also is in this line right here, the predictable hierarchy. We can only move through the states in sequence. So what that means is when we are in dorsal vagal tone, let's say someone is in dorsal vagal tone, they are not able to, they are not sometimes not able to, not sometimes, sorry, they are not able to jump into ventral vagal tone directly. That's why there is the idea of the ladder. You have to go up into sympathetic charge and then go up to ventral vagal tone. The same goes to the phrase, what goes up must come down. So it's always gonna be a wavy state. Personally, I find that really interesting. So, and that could really inform how you might want to approach your own self-care or self-care for your clients as well. Because if they are really in a very overwhelmed state, maybe calming them down or doing a really parasympathetic activity would not be helpful because they are not able to get more energy, simplistically. They are not able to go into mobilization. And or the opposite could be true. If they are really overwhelmed and then we push really hard and we say, okay, let's make ourselves go for like a 10-kilometer run when we have like a really busy and long day, just in hopes to feel better. Sometimes we might also send our body into deeper overwhelm and then we are not able to climb out of the basement. Yeah, so that's something to remember, which means we need to grade the exposure, graded exposure. It's a term used in pain science and also in like strength training. So for example, after someone has gone through like maybe an injury or certain traumatic experience, they will need to just go one step at a time, one drop at a time. In SE, in somatic experiencing, we use the word titration as an example. So that can create a lot of psychological safety when it comes to coaching or even just your day-to-day interaction with your family or friends, to just keep in mind that with the nervous system, we want to go one drop at a time for lasting changes. And okay, whoops. Co-regulation is the process by which individuals regulate each other's physiological and emotional states through reciprocal interaction. I'm sure some of you, the ones who have at least heard of the polyvagal theory, would have come across this term. And I'm curious about how each of you are relating to this term and where or how in your life have you experienced co-regulation? If you can just type it down really quick so everyone can see it. No, I love all the comments about everything that we were talking about with your children, at aesthetic dance, spending time with friends. I'm able to rise on ladder mostly through co-regulation. Was that titration? Yes, the term comes from chemistry. Yeah, so a lot of people's answer has to do with other people. And what? Stroking my dog. Yeah, that for me too. Yeah, what's interesting is also if you flip the word co-regulation into co-triggering, it also works both ways. So it always starts with ourselves, because that's the only entity that we have a little bit more autonomy over. So when it relates to emotion coaching, it helps if we regulate ourselves first before stepping into the room so that we are able to hold space better for the client. We will have more time for questions later, so we're going to move ahead first. So earlier on, I led you through a really short kind of grounding and sensory kind of experience just through a voice leading. So the term felt sensing comes from Eugene Jendling and from a methodology called focusing. It's really about tuning in, taking in, and tending to. So a lot of times when we do body scanning, the aim might be to calm down, but in felt sensing, it's not about coming down. It's really about just getting in touch with what is here. As simple as that sounds, it's not an easy thing to do because there's always so much that is going through our head, and then we're thinking about what to do tomorrow or even what to do just in 2 hours. So the skill of felt sensing is something that needs to be honed and practiced, but it's super accessible. Everyone can do it. So if you look at the figure in my screen, you would see that you will see some of the suggestions on how to begin. We can begin from bottom up. We can also begin from outside in. You can kind of start from one body part and then move through to the center of the body. Yeah. We will have time to do a little bit more of that in a bit. But so far, does anyone have any questions about this? Laughing at someone else's joke. Yeah, so I think we can move forward first. All right, so let's do a little bit of felt sensing right now. If you were sitting down earlier on and if you would like to try this standing or even lying down, feel free to do so as long as you can still hear my voice. Yeah, and take it as an experiment. It's going to be just for another 3 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. If you can just settle down in a more comfortable position, maybe stretch a little bit more after all that talking. I'm gonna lead you through a felt sensing exercise right now. So again, you can take your gaze away from the screen just for a while. And if it feels good to you, you can close your eyes, or you can keep it open and softly gaze at something that is okay for you to settle your gaze on. If you're sitting, I would like you to start by scanning the area that is contacting your chair. That is your sit bones. You can also gentle sway just to exaggerate the weight on one side and then to the other side, so you're able to get a clearer sense of where that landmark is. Moving up the body, you have your spine that is sitting on your pelvis. In your mental image, you can kind of just visualize how the spine is standing tall. What is your posture like right now? Are you leaning forward or are you more laid back? Sensing into the space just above your sitting bones, below your belly button. Just listening to what is there in terms of sensation. Moving up to the belly button area. You can sense your tension level muscularly. Maybe some of you can sense the food that you ate earlier on. Is there any movement in the digestive system? Moving up, you have your rib cage. Your rib cage centers around your lungs and your heart. Again, you can sense the tension levels. You can sense the rise and fall movement-wise when you breathe. And really not changing anything, just really being very curious as to what is here. Going up, you have your shoulders, the left and right side, the front and back. If you sense tension anywhere, you're not changing it, you're also just sitting with it. Anything is welcome. And if your thoughts wander to something else, maybe it's a memory, maybe that's emotion, just say hello to all of them that is here. Moving up to the throat and the jaw. Your cheeks. How does the inside of your mouth and the throat area feels? Is it open, constricted, empty, full? And lastly, the forehead area, maybe the space between your eyebrows. And your scalp. From your scalp down to the rest of your arms into your fingers. And I'm just going to offer a little verbal experiment here. And you can use that as an exploration to see what felt sense might come to you. The first the first sentence that I'm gonna say, or words that I'm gonna say, is gonna be, I'm tired. I'm tired. And the second one is going to be spaciousness. Spaciousness. Okay, and take in all that sensory information. And I'm gonna invite you to slowly come back to the meeting that we have with one another. And if you like, whenever you're ready, take your time. You can also write a note or two on whatever you might want to share with everyone sharing this time together. Lovely. Thank you for sharing. Thank you all of you for sharing. So as you can see, the experiences that each person shared is really different. Some people felt teary, some people felt very relaxed and happy. Yeah. So our senses can tell us a lot of information. As we have spoken about earlier on, it's always asking the question, am I safe? And when something is received that feels resonating, there is a felt sense of rightness. So maybe for some of you, when I said I'm tired, that felt like not really. Can we move faster? For someone else could be, yeah, actually, I'm a little bit tired today. Yeah, so it really depends. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, cool. Okay, so we're gonna just move ahead. I think we don't have a lot of time. I'm going to move ahead to embodiment a little bit. So information flows 90% from gut to brain or body to brain, and 10% from brain to body. And when we point this out, it's not so much about then saying that, oh, it's not good to use our brain, because actually everything is interconnected. Sometimes I hear people say things like, oh, I'm always in my head. But the way they say that, it sounds like how I experienced it from the person that I'm referring to. It felt like he or she felt like that shouldn't be the case, but it really is a dance between the whole system. So there is no hierarchy in that sense. But there are some ways in which we know through science as well as to how information is moving around through the entire system. So I will move ahead first. So last thing to speak about before maybe the Q&A is that I feel is relevant in coaching is the conceptual self-awareness versus embodied self-awareness. So it's a really clear, it's a simple model to refer to. If you think about someone who is able to speak really clearly about how they feel, it might be that it is a hindsight information, means that state has already passed and they are able to communicate very clearly about what they are feeling and what happened. Whereas when someone is in felt sense and speaking from felt sense, they are usually not very clear. So it might be that they would have a downward gaze and they might also speak a little bit slower than usual. And the words might not be very concrete. It can be, I feel like maybe it's a gesture, or I feel something here. That is a really amazing doorway into sensing the whole person more. Usually there's some content underneath that. I feel the need to emphasize that because most of the time people kind of discount that because it's not clear. They're not able to express super clearly yet. But in the sensing body, in the feeling body, things are not that clear. It's not in terms of language and symbols yet. So how you can use this to your advantage is when you are communicating with your friends or when you're seeing a client, you can kind of see, are they in an embodied self-awareness or are they in a conceptual part? And how can we move from the conceptual part into embodied self-awareness? So yeah, it's like an infinity loop with sensing, like mood, pain, shape, experience, acting, feeling, all these intertwines together with language, symbols, interpretation. All of this makes up embodiment, our embodied experience. So the key takeaway is that we can reclaim our body's wisdom. Our brains are not the sole director of our bodies, but yet without the brain, there is no body, there is no movement. And our behaviors are not isolated output of the brain. Body influences the mind more than the mind influences the body in some ways. Conceptual and embodied self-awareness are interwoven. We need both in order to deepen self-understanding and personal growth. I feel like I read something from Joel about emotions coaching, that everything is emotions coaching, actually. That's something that I realized through my work as well. I've never thought that I would speak about emotions, or I would work with people on emotions, actually. But as I reflect on the 14 years of like seeing clients, everything is emotional work. And deep change comes through that as well. Sometimes I might see a client for a shoulder pain and it turns out to be about grief. And we can't just address the shoulder pain through the physiology, but we also want to hold space for what needs to emerge to come. And that's really the value of coaching. In line with neuroception, you can't do that on your own. You do that in partnership with somebody. That can be a coach or your family member. So do we still have time, actually? Not a lot, right?
5 minutes max.
Okay, I'll go through this part. So yeah, so in part of my training, we look through the lens of the fascia system a lot. Yeah, fascia is the connective tissue that surrounds all of you, actually. It's like 75% water. It's a web-like network in the body, and it helps with transferring information, transferring of forces. Yeah, it can be found beneath the skin, surrounding bones, muscles, joints, internal organs, and even our blood vessels and nerve. So what does fascia do? It transmits forces, creates flexibility and elasticity in our body, and it provides proprioceptive feedback. And proprioceptive feedback is really important because it is literally how we place ourselves on earth, our place on earth, how we sense our environment. If someone, for example, if someone comes to your office for a session, it helps with orienting, like looking around, or even just allowing space to sit back and just do a little bit of adjustments and moving. That is literally not just to calm down the nervous system, but that is really to establish that this person is here in the physical space and that person's body feels safe through the proprioceptive feedback of like just exploring the environment. Sometimes that can do a lot for psychological safety. Yeah. And embodying more of what our fascia do through body awareness can also really enhance somebody's confidence or even the willingness to try new things. That's what I realized through my work. Sometimes I might see a client who is not willing to talk about emotions at all, but after they move with me, maybe for a period, they start talking about everything. They start trying new things. They maybe pick up dance lessons, because how our body positions on earth can affect how we feel and how open we are to the options around us. So yeah, lastly, the mind is like the wind and the body is like the sand. If you want to know how the wind is blowing, you can look at the sand. Basically, if you want to know what is in the psyche, you look at the body, because the body never really lies. if we listen to it. I'm sure some of you have heard of power posing. So that's why it works as well, because when we position our body in a stronger position for over a few minutes, you start to feel a little bit more of that embodiment, of that state, of that shape as well. Which is why in the felt sensing, sometimes there's an invitation to rock back and forth so that you can start noticing where you are in space. And that maybe it's not very comfortable to sit forward so much. Maybe sitting back is more comfortable. So these are some exercises that I find is helpful for fascia resourcing. I'm just gonna go through it quickly. You can take pictures if you want, because we won't have time to go through them physically. So deep breathing for the core and pelvic floor. You can start by breathing in for 4 and then extending the exhale for a longer period of time. This brings more of the down-regulating tone towards parasympathetic tone. So if you need to maybe come down because you're about to go for presentation, you can try doing that. And at the end of our exhalation, if we allow it to complete, our pelvic floor muscles activates a little bit more as well. And this can go on and on because the breath does so much for our nervous system and the body. Yeah, but deep breathing is very healthy for our body and also the nervous system. And ankle glides is an exercise where you move your ankles when your hamstrings are in stretch. So for example, this, yeah. So it helps to kind of bring a bit more synergy of the front and the back of the body. You can get similar effect when you stand and rock forward and back as well. When you are in need to feel your feet a little bit more, to feel a bit more grounded, this is something you can do. Standing roll down is my favorite. You would have done that before, probably in yoga or any kind of fitness class as well. If you were to really take your time as you roll down to rock the body back and forth, you can really feel the back of the body coming more in tone. This you will have to try it out to feel it. So when you're at the bottom of the roll up, you just gently shift your weight to your hands a little bit more. You will start to feel the back of the body, the strength of the back of the body holding your body from falling forward. It's a really grounding exercise as well to really wake up the awareness of the back body. Side bends is going through into a side stretch just like this. If you want, you can do a couple of times with me as we come to the end of the presentation. So reaching one arm up and then going over to one side and really feeling all the way from the finger, the arm line down to the waist, stretching. So a fun fact is that the side line, the lateral line, is linked to feelings of vitality and creativity. So if you want more energy, you can do that. And it also helps you to expand your ribs more when you breathe, so you're more able to receive the in-breath. Yeah, so I think we've come to the end of the presentation. This is where we can chat a little bit more, I believe.